You said it's an election happening within a unique situation, and I think it's very important, and we clearly identify that the state government in Rivers State at the moment is unconstitutional because our constitution, like I said, I've always said this, the system existing currently is alien to our constitution. However, the local government elections are required to be held by the constitution also. If you remember that this was an election that was annulled, or rather the October 2024 elections that held at the local government level was annulled by the Supreme Court in February this year. And the Supreme Court had highlighted several grounds for its decision, why that decision was taken. And so if you look at what is happening in Rivers State, one, I'm happy that finally the local government election is happening because we believe in a democratic process where citizens can choose their leaders at the local government level. But then it's not just about the elections happening, it's about the quality of the process. And I think that is where the bigger question is. If, for instance, the decision of the Supreme Court to upturn the last local government election that was held was because the elections, as it had said, the Rivers State Independent Electoral Commission at the time did not follow the procedure required by the Electoral Act, then the expectation is that these elections should be conducted in a way that there is due compliance with the Electoral Act, because our Electoral Act in sections 150 has clearly stated that local government elections must be conducted in the same manner as the area council elections are conducted at the Federal Capital Territory. And it says the procedure that regulates area council elections must regulate local government elections henceforth, which is one of the reasons there's an advisory to states to review their state electoral laws to comply with the electoral. So simple things around procedure. If you go to Part 6 of the Electoral Act, it highlights the procedure for local government elections. And then it's clear that the procedure of conducting general elections should apply to local government elections. So as simple as things like the deployment of the bimodal voter accreditation system for accrediting voters ought to be part of the local government elections now by the provisions of the Electoral Act, and with the logic of the decision of the Supreme Court, which said that because that local government election of last year did not comply with the procedure in the Electoral Act, that the elections cannot be said to be valid, which that was what the court said. And so following the news today and following the reports from the field in Rivers and observing that there is the application of, well, the manual accreditation of voters without a compulsory use of the BVAS, raises a bigger question on the procedure for the elections complying with the legal framework for elections. And so that's a big question. What is the quality of the elections that will be conducted if the rules of the games are not adequately applied in the local government election? The second thing is around the question of citizens' confidence. And the reports have shown in some places you have lower turnout, as simple as commencement of polls. The commencement of polls started late, even though the guideline has said they will start later, but it still showed late commencement of polls at different local government level. But you're also seeing that there is almost lack of enthusiasm. Aside the polling unit where the minister is voting, which we expect the crowd to be there, because usually, unfortunately, when it comes to elections, normally when a political leader is voting, there's always this crowd, people going. It doesn't mean most of the people they are going to vote. Most of them just want to see a political figure voting. But if you look at most of the polling unit that has been showed, because I followed a bit of the live coverage from channels also, you see very few citizens coming out to vote, queuing up to vote. Now, not those standing to watch others vote, those queuing up to vote. And so it's a bigger question around the quality vis-a-vis citizens' enthusiasm to participate. And I think these are issues that we need to look at. If the quality in itself is questionable, if the process is not compliant to the electoral legal framework, how can that inspire citizens' confidence in participating? Especially because since last year, there's been a lot of conversations around, one, local government elections must be held Two, the quality and the process must be in compliance with the Electoral Act in 2022 for it to pass the legitimacy test. And I think at this point, there's a bigger question on the legitimacy of the process beyond just the participation. And I'm hoping that the conversation post the Rivers election is one, and that there needs to be a national consensus on what we want for our local government elections. We can no longer have a system of local governance where the process that elects or the process where leaders emerge is not democratic. We can no longer have a system of local government where the institutions managing the local government elections are not adequately provided with the right autonomy and financial independence to conduct the elections. And we can no longer have a system of local government where there is a pick and choose when it comes to the application of the laws. Because if you follow the Supreme Court's decision in February, it's almost as if there was a clear targeting of the local elections conducted in Rivers State, because we've seen several other states flout the provisions of the Electoral Act in the local government elections, but nothing has been done to hold them accountable. We've not seen those elections upturned. So the bigger question is, do we also have a system where there is a bias in the application of the rules, especially when their political interests are at play? Or do we want a local government system where truly the laws apply equally across board, the system itself upholds the provisions of the law and inspires the confidence of the people? We keep watching to see how local governments, these elections will go on in Rivers State. But honestly, I'm not very inspired. I'm not very enthusiastic about the outcome of the elections, because it's almost as if the outcome is determined before the process. And I'm hoping that for voters who are watching, that they are inspired to at least come out, because your turnout can actually influence the outcome of the elections. But as it is, it's not very inspiring, and we're hoping for better local government elections moving forward.